Hey guys, Volen here. I want to talk to you today about mindset. It's not something that we often talk about in art, but I think this is absolutely crucial when you're setting out to do something that takes years. That is a long process with a lot of training, a lot of difficulties, a lot of uncertainties. So you may have the best resources available, you might have all the tutorials, the teachers, whatever it is that you may need to learn, but you may not be taking advantage of these things because of the way that you're thinking about your training. So this is what I want to talk to you about today. I think it's very important to set some expectations. When I was first starting out, I had no idea what I was doing. And because of that, I really didn't know what was possible and when I could do it. So at the very, very start, when I first sat down to draw something, I had this idea of what I wanted to do. And obviously, it was something that I wanted to be impactful, that I wanted to be good, that I wanted to have some sort of meaning. But at the same time, I had zero training, none. I'd never drawn before. And I wanted to do this series of portraits, I thought. I had no idea what I had in mind, how I was going to actually go about it. I'd be curious now if I could just watch and see what I would have done then if I had to do the portraits, but I didn't actually get to that because I guess maybe I thought, hey, let me warm up with a cube. So I had this cube that was on my desk. I still remember it and I hate it to this day. I remember sitting down and trying to draw this cube that was on my table. And a cube is basically a square with a square for a top, a square for a bottom, squares on the sides. It's just a bunch of squares connected together. So when I sat down to draw this cube, I drew a square because it was kind of facing me, and then I drew another square for the top because I could see the top, and then I drew another square for the side. So what I had on my paper looked like a cardboard box that was cut open and laid out on the desk. I spent the entire afternoon trying to draw this thing, and hours later, I still didn't have a cube. I didn't understand how to do anything, but at the same time, I had high expectations for what I wanted to do, and that is a setup for disaster. And the end of that day was not a happy day. One of the problems about starting out with art later in life is that you probably have a lot more verbal training than you do visual training. When we go through school, we learn to write. We write essays. If you've been to university like me, you write even more essays. And by the time you're done, you're verbally overdeveloped and visually, well, pretty much the only thing I'd drawn until I was out of school was this outline of a banana that I remember. And it got me, I think, about a C, which thankfully was just enough to get me through so I don't have to go to art class because I just wasn't interested in it then and I had no idea how to do it. There have been a lot of comments from people asking if they could improve. And if they could improve, how much? I remember particular comments asking if they were always going to be mediocre. So they're improving to some degree, but they're not really sure where they can get to. Also, I've read plenty comments about people who also struggle with depression. I think a lot of times with the start that I had, if you have something in mind that you really want to do, obviously depression can be caused by many other things. Just chemically, you may be predisposed to it. I've certainly dealt with depression as well. But wanting to do something desperately and not knowing how to go about it and failing at it repeatedly can certainly contribute to that. I think there's also a common personality type that goes for art. I think a lot of us are introverted. A lot of us are highly sensitive, or at least people who are responding to many things and strongly as well. So introverted, perfectionist, depression. I think these things are just a common thing that can be found. At least traces of it or parts of it. I'm not saying that everyone is like that. I'm just saying that subtle combinations of these things can be found in a lot of us. So that's why I think it's important to talk about some of these things. If you see what's happening to you, if you see your training, and if you see your current inability to do the thing that you want to do, if you see that as basically your endpoint, you're doomed at that stage, then you can see how you'll probably not be attempting it very often. Because what's the point? I'm not going to get any better. I've tried many, many times before. I'm still at the same place. What's the point in even trying? And like I've talked about in a previous video, I've spoken to people who have formed such anxiety from sitting down to a blank piece of paper and having such high expectations that they just could not get started. They would just essentially either not be able to work or would get to work so rarely that it really doesn't give them enough practice to be able to improve at the thing that they want to improve at. But it's just accompanied with so much stress and so much pain that they really just start avoiding it altogether. So I want to talk here about Carol Dweck and her work. She wrote a book called Mindset, and I think by the time the book was written, she had spent about 20 years researching people who achieved to a very high level versus people who kind of stayed the same. And she identified two general mindsets. One is the fixed mindset or the entity mindset. The other one is the growth mindset. The fixed mindset, that was me. That was very much me when I was starting out. Actually, one of the reasons why I wanted to see if I could learn to draw and get into art is because I was so untrained and I was so bad at it. Just out of the box, I had no skill whatsoever. So I was so untrained that I thought it was impossible. So I really wanted to see if I could take something about myself that is at a very, very low level, and if I could train it and see if I can get it to be better. Because if I could do that for one thing, I knew that that would mean that I could do it for many other things. I'd been reading books about the brain and about neuroplasticity and all these things, and I really wanted to see if we're fixed, because I firmly believe that I had certain characteristics and I was good at certain things, and I was definitely not good at many other things. And since I'd lived for quite a few years that way, I wanted to see, as I was reading these things, if I could actually change. The fixed mindset or entity mindset is described by the belief that you are a certain way. That's why it was first called entity. You are this entity. You are this way. You are genetically gifted in these ways. You are just not good at these things. That's the type of thinking that would believe, let's say, in talent, which I'm not saying that some people aren't out of the box better than others, but talent in terms of, do you need to have something that must be given to you at birth? And if yes, tick this box and you can do this. Or if no, don't tick this box, go do something else. Now, one thing that comes with the fixed mindset is that if you believe you're a certain way, you kind of know the way that you are. So you will avoid putting yourself in places that you think you don't belong. So if you think, let's say, if you're bad at drawing, then there's no reason to attempt it, because one, you're fixed, you can't get good at it. Two, let's say if you also believe about yourself that you're either smart or stupid, if you put yourself in a place where you have to draw, then if it comes out poorly and you think you're smart, well, then that might mean that you might be stupid. So you definitely don't want to go in that direction. If you think that you're stupid and you go and you draw, then it's just, and it's bad, it's just confirmation again that this thing that you believed about yourself, it's true. In a way, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The growth mindset, though, is described by people who understand that where they start at is just a baseline. It's just a starting point. It doesn't mean anything about them. It's just that they are trained or untrained in a certain thing. They see challenges and difficulties as opportunities to push forward and to try for something. It doesn't mean that it's going to always come out. It doesn't mean that it's going to be good. It just means that they're willing to put themselves in a place where they are not necessarily comfortable. I think a lot of artists develop comfort zones. They say they're a character artist, or they're an environment artist, or they do creatures or cartoons or whatever. Many people wouldn't do cartoons and realistic work. One, it may just take a longer time to develop, but two, they'll just feel comfortable doing what they're doing and they wouldn't want to do something that's so far removed. I was listening to a Dave Rapoza tutorial recently, and he was talking about how he first started doing these super high realistic things, and then he wanted to move away and do comic stuff, and he had to relearn a lot of stuff. He had to improve on his line drawing skills. Also, his audience wasn't happy with him doing the new thing that he was doing. There was many reasons why not to do it, but he just wanted to go in that direction. And that is a great example of the growth mindset as well. Hey, I'm doing this thing, I'm getting good at it, I feel like I want to do something else though. Can I do it? Well, the answer to that is, if you're a growth mindset, then the answer is yes. But that doesn't mean that it's easy though. If you are willing to go through the training that it's going to require, then yes, you can do it. One more thing I want to put in here is that the way that I think about art training is very much in the way that an athlete might think of their training. That really helps free me up from my perfectionistic tendencies, and it means I don't have to have something good at the end of a session, because what's more important to me, I may have gotten something good, but if I didn't learn anything, then I can't use that later on. So if I just got lucky with a piece, let's say, then that really doesn't help me for all the other pieces that are going to come after that. So I'm trying to look at this thing as a very long-term process rather than just, I need to get this now. I want to have it now. I want this to be good, and I want to have it, and I want it to be mine, and I want everyone to like it, and I want to put it on Facebook, and I want to put it on Instagram and on Twitter, and I want everyone to click like, and then give me more of everything I like, and then ice cream. So I look at everything I do as training. Essentially, it's just like going to the gym. You do your thing, you lift weights, you run, you do whatever. It's not necessarily comfortable. It may not be your favorite thing, but you do that with the purpose, with the understanding behind it that you're going to get better. A lot of times I think if you start out with the expectation that somehow drawing or art in general is this freeing, beautiful process that you can express yourself through, that you want to let your imagination go or anything like that. If you just see it as this beautiful and innocuous, harmless thing that you're somehow going to engage in, I think you're in for a rough surprise if you're expecting anything remotely, let's say, realistic to come out from your drawing. So if you're working in a realistic way, there's just a lot of training that needs to go into that before you can expect anything good to come out. I mean, if you wanted to be a writer and you didn't know the language, which is essentially the situation we're in because we're verbally overdeveloped, so that means you can think about complex ideas, but visually you may be completely illiterate. So that's like you're able to formulate complex ideas, but you cannot get them out at all. You shouldn't be able to get them out because you don't have the visual skills. You don't have the visual vocabulary, the visual grammar. You don't have the language. It's like wanting to be a writer in a language that you don't speak. But it's not even that, because you actually don't have any words. You shouldn't be able to speak at all. It's like wanting to be a writer without having knowledge of language, and you want to do it in a foreign language as well, which is double impossible. When you're going to the gym, when you're working out, when you're training as an athlete, there's a certain amount of pain that's just inherently part of the process of training. Every time, if you're stretching yourself, if you're pushing, then it's just going to hurt a little bit, at least. It just has to. It's an indicator of whether you're working hard enough. If you expect this to just be a beautiful, fluid, freeing process and things to just come out that are beautiful, that other people can look at and admire, it will just not happen. And I'm saying this because if you're just expecting it to be that way and you get punched in the face, if you're expecting that someone's going to be your best friend, this is what I've been waiting for my whole life, this is what I want to do, and then it just punches you in the face, especially when you want it to be nice to it, you want it to do something nice with it, you want a drawing to be your best friend, and it just punches you in the face. That's not cool, man. That's not cool drawing. So I'm emphasizing all of this because I just want you to be prepared. It's much easier to take a hit when you know that it may be coming versus when you thought something was absolutely fine and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you get sucker punched. Part of the growth mindset is also developing grit. It's being able to understand, appreciate, and be incredibly grateful for the fact that we can improve. But at the same time, just because you understand the capacity now that you can, it doesn't mean that that automatically makes you better. That now needs to be combined with a very solid work ethic, discipline, and just getting to work, seeing it as work, seeing it as training, seeing it as the cost that you need to pay. There isn't necessarily a monetary cost that you can pay for all this stuff. You can have all the teachers, you can have the best instructors in the world, you can go to as many schools as you want, buy all the books, buy all the courses, but if you're not putting in the work, you will not be improving, because all that matters at the end of the day is your brain. It's everything that you're doing is about changing your brain, creating new behavior and optimizing it, myelinating, creating skill, which is something that we'll talk about in the next video. I think it's incredibly important to know that things are possible, but just that by itself, it doesn't mean anything. It's time to get to work now. We all have potential. As people, we all share the same hardware. We all have the same brain. So the people who have made it to an incredibly high level at something that you want to aspire to, they have the same hardware as you. Maybe they have some small upgrades. Maybe they have some small tweaks. But for the most part, there's not been a single person that has become very good at anything without the necessary practice and training and skill building. So it's possible. It's absolutely possible. I'm hoping that some of the things that I'm showing you here are proof of the fact that it's possible, that you can start as completely detrained and that you can improve. That's about as far as I can go with showing proof. I haven't done anything really at all, but I have improved at certain things. And I think that's really all we can hope for at the end of the day, is that improvement is possible. Now I think we're gonna wrap up here. I wanna thank you guys for all of your comments. I wanna thank you guys for the support. I really like trying to build this community, and I see a lot of people are asking for a forum or a Discord or whatever, some way to just communicate together. I'm really out of all of this stuff. I don't really use barely any of it. I stay away from social media a lot as well. So it will take me some time. And I'm practicing right now getting better at videos because this is pretty hard for me. I normally write these and I spend about an hour a day every day, and I write them and I rewrite them and I record them and I re-record them because it's difficult for me to string things together in a way that makes sense. And I even now have no idea if this made sense or not, but I'm hoping that it's better since I'm re-recording it again. All right, I want to keep this thing going. So please, I'm making these for you. So let me know what you got from the video. Let me know what you could use more of. The drawing stuff is coming. I'm building towards that. So let me know so far, please, what do you struggle most with? What do you find most helpful? Has this helped you in particular with something that you've been struggling with for a while? What would you like to hear more about if anything here was unclear or incomplete? All right, and homework. You guys asked about homework. For all my hard workers out there that want to do something extra, the homework for this week is I would like you to think about what you want to do. Mindset is all about how you think about what's happening, how you interpret the things that are coming in. Are you taking things as challenges, or are you just looking at them as attacks on you that you need to defend yourself from and run away from? Fixed mindset style. So I want you to think about what you would like to ultimately be doing. What is your greatest goal? What is it that you would like to do? Now, I would like you to break this thing down, and I would like you to say that your greatest goal is about, let's say, 5, 10 years from now. That doesn't mean you're going to get a lot of rewards along the way, but the big goal, that needs to be far away because otherwise it wouldn't be special. So I want you to think about that ultimate thing as something that you'll be working towards over the next years. And then I want you to think about what is your current thing that you struggle most with, that you do not want to do, that you have anxiety thinking about. And I want you to take that thing and I want you to break it down. I want you to break it down into its components as much as you can. So if it's figure drawing, I want you to think, what's that made of? There's gesture, there's structure, there's anatomy, there's just drawing. Do I need to know perspective? What do I need to do? Do I need to just practice more? Do I need to train my hand a little bit? Are my proportions off? Do I need to work on basic drawing? Do I need to actually train some of the particular pieces now that I've made it to that stage? I would like you to think about what it is that you want to do, break it down, and I would like you to identify the smallest possible thing that you can do now, today. I would like you to know what it is that will move the needle in a very small way, because it's the 0.1% over time incremental improvement that gives you the massive transformation over time. So I would like you to think about the one thing that you can do today. I would like you to spend the smallest possible piece. I would like you to spend just 5 minutes on that. You don't need to start big, but you just need to start. And then I would like you from now on to every day log in at least 5 minutes on that thing. It doesn't need to be massive. The more, hopefully, the better. But if you can do 5 minutes, that's absolutely fine. And a final thing, second thing, I would like you to think about your why. Doing something for a long period of time requires you to have a strong why. Because when that stupid paper punches you in the face, then you need to have, just think about a boxing glove that's sitting on your white page and it's just ready to hit you in the face anytime you sit down. Now, if you have a strong enough why, then it doesn't matter what that thing does to you. You can always do what you need to do because it's not about you getting punched. There's a bigger thing, a bigger reward out there. So I would like you to think about what your why is. Why are you going to put in the time? What's it going to mean if you do put it in? How's it going to change what it is that you do? How's it going to change things for the people around you? How can you be more helpful to other people if you manage to do what it is that you want to do? 2 pieces of homework. Put them down in the comments. If you found this video helpful, then please like it and share it. If you want to see more, then please subscribe and do the bell notification thing because I don't currently have a schedule. I'm just trying to do them as fast as I can, but I am slow. Thank you very much, guys, for all your support. Thank you for the awesome comments. Keep getting after it, and I will see you soon.